So the boys are playing out in Bathurst, and Peter Wallace done his ACL, bro. And then he went off, got it checked, and it tore his ACL, but he could still kind of run of it. You know, he can kind of run straight lines. And then Sowie done his cork. He said, whoa, fuck, I might be going off. I've done the cork. He goes, bro, I've done my ACL. Keep going. And then Sowie goes, yeah, all right. Hey, guys, what's up? Welcome back to the YKTR Sports Show. We are currently in the BSC Content Studio. Shout out to BSC, best subs in the game. Been smacking the pre-workout a little bit lately. Been getting after it. But today is the new format of the show. Sort of skip a scope come to me last week, and we wanted to switch things up a little bit and put a bit more focus into it. Do you want to explain a little bit more?
Yeah, I felt like a few of our shows were diluted. We were sort of just
spread too far out.
We're going all over the shop with a few different shows. So this will narrow it down a little bit more. We'll talk a little bit about the weekend just gone and a little bit about the weekend coming up.
So the weekend just gone, we're going to be talking more so about hot topics within the game and giving our opinion. First topic number one, Gus Gould signing up to the Bulldogs. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the Gus father, I'm calling it. We had a little chat just before we come on. He's got his hands. Gus is also renowned as one of the smartest minds in rugby league. This is obviously why he gets these.
Who would be smarter than him, just randomly?
Footy-wise?
As a whole, I reckon it's Gus.
Yeah.
Like top to bottom.
My dad had spent a bit of time with him at Panthers during the time you were there looking after the house, and he couldn't have spoke highly. Dad said when he starts speaking, you just listen. Bro. Like that's the kind of influence and the presence that he has when he talks about footy. Whenever I watch any of the Channel 9 stuff and I see Gus is talking about a subject,
shut up and listen.
Yeah, I just end up watching those clips because I always find them very interesting. Whether you agree or disagree with him, no matter what, he's always got pretty valid points, and you can tell like the influence that he's had over certain clubs over the last 4 or 5 years, and some other points I've got on that as well. Yeah,
so Bulldogs, obviously, in my opinion, they need to be one of the better teams, the more popular teams. They've got one of the best fan bases, along with South Sydney. Bronx have got a good fan base. Parramatta, they're pretty loyal as well. Newcastle. The comp's just better when the Bulldogs are good because you either love them or you hate them.
Yeah.
And we come through that period when Sonny Bill was all the guy, and Sonny Bill, Willie Mason. Man, that was so good to watch, and they sort of had the style of football that you either love them or hate them. And their fan base come along with it, and you sort of love and hate them as well. So do you feel like the comp is better when the Bulldogs are better?
For sure. You obviously throw back to that era, the early to mid 2000s with Sonny and
even mid 90s, bro. They were gone.
Yeah, and then the Dogs of War years, obviously. But I always remember that 2009 preliminary final, Parramatta versus Bulldogs, to go into the grand final. That was like I was at that game. The energy. That game for me, like I didn't end up going to the grand final. I've talked about that before, but the energy in that stadium for that game was crazy. Dogs were on a rebuild. They just had that rebuild after losing all those big stars in the couple of previous years. And when Parramatta play Bulldogs, like that is – we always talk about Homebush, not like it's a little bit awkward stadium to play at if the fan base isn't there.
Yep.
When those two teams are successful and going well, like there's nothing like it.
It's almost like a soccer rivalry, isn't it? Where both fans actually really, really hate each other.
Yeah, and that like the fan base is massive, and they're all next to each other. Obviously, it's that rivalries that we talk about. The Penrith Parramatta rivalry, Parramatta Bulldogs rivalries. It's good. It's good to see Gus at a club like that. If we're I think Gus goes back. Like Gus was coach of the Bulldogs in the 80s? Was it around that time?
I think he was a player.
Or was he a player?
Yeah, he's definitely a player. I'm not too sure on the full history of him. But yeah, I've had a little bit to do with Gus at Penrith, and I didn't really appreciate how good he was at the time because the thing that I liked about him the most, bro, like leaders lead, and like he's not scared to make decisions with the data he's got right now. So when you look back at Penrith, he pretty much got rid of all the boys that are on the biggest money. Michael Jennings, Luke Lewis, Lachlan Coote, these boys have been signed big contracts, and he sort of, at the time, you're like, what are they doing? You're getting rid of origin stars right now. And then he got a bunch of guys come in like myself who were just kind of like plugins for this little period until he got the academies set up. And if you look at Penrith now, like everyone sort of laughed about that 5-year plan. And like he said that he's never really said it, but I'm not too sure about that. But you look at Penrith now, they're solid for the next 5 to 6 to 10. Depends how the development goes. So obviously from top to bottom, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, for sure. And the influence that he's got on a number of clubs at the moment too now, like that just shows that, the strength of, who he is as a leader of the game. He's obviously got influence from his time at Penrith. He went to the Dragons and did a review on the board, and I think it was a big decision getting Anthony Griffin there. He's been to the Warriors with Peter Sullivan's the head of recruitment. He's obviously got strong ties to the Roosters. Like fuck, he's all over the NRL, man. He's
too smart.
He's the Gus father. So it'll be good for the Bulldogs. Now he's going to the Bulldogs, obviously, and we'll get to some news. He probably a big reason behind the new big signing there that we'll probably get to at some point.
Yeah, but yeah, 100%. He's behind that sort of TPJ. But like the thing I used to like about him, bro. So like your dad sort of spoke about the influence that he has when he walks in a room, bro. If he walked in here, all everyone here will just go like, "Shut the fuck up!" And once he starts talking, bro, he can captivate a whole room.
Yeah,
and a lot of it's off the cuff. Like I reckon those Origin ones are off the cuff. Like you think about it on the way to, but he just knows his craft that well, from top to bottom, from a player to a coach to dealing with superstars to dealing with people that are on like average players like myself, all the way up to admin, up to board. He knows how the whole system works. So I think he's good. And when he walks into a club, like one of the first things he writes down on the board, he goes, administrators administrate, coaches coach, players play.
Yep.
And that's important because once you start getting players worrying about what the coach is doing, the coaches worrying about admins doing, if you don't have that flow from top to bottom, things start to get real messy pretty quick.
Yeah, for sure. And that seems to be a problem that's probably infiltrated itself at the Broncos at the moment. You've got a couple of, he's got Tavita Pangai, he's going to be bringing in a guy like that, and I dare say the message that he'll be given to him and the rest of the team will be pretty much like that.
Do you reckon anyone at Melbourne's players telling Bellamy what to do? Do you reckon anyone at the Roosters is telling Trent Robinson what to do?
No.
Do you reckon they're trying to tell Nick Politis what to do?
No.
Clubs start at the top. Like if you got a solid, it starts from top and moves its way down, and I think Gus is the right guy for that. A little bit shouted for the Warriors. I know he's still going to do an advisory sort of thing, but he was setting up pathways. Apparently he's still setting up that as well. Pathways are super important. We've looked at the benefits off the back of like the Panthers are the prime example of that. But that in New Zealand has got to be really important. And when you're a kid, bro, all you want is an opportunity and a bit of training gear, don't it?
Yeah.
Like you're not really chasing money when you're a little bit younger. You just want to see that there's a clear pathway for me to potentially make NRL. And a lot of their recruitment's been off the back of like sort of private school rugby guys. You think of guys like Conrad Hurrell, a few of the boys that are in there now, like Rocco Berry and that.
Yep.
Like that's been their recruitment strategy. There should be a rock solid one for rugby league over there, pathway straight to Warriors, NRL. And if not, they disperse out. You get your Peter Huku's come over, play for Manly. Isaiah Papali'i at the moment, he was there. Once he left, like there should be a pathway there, bro.
Yeah, for sure. And people forget, like during that period that you talked about at the top of the show, Penrith is the dominant junior rugby league system in probably the league, like all over the world.
Do you reckon it's because they're bigger, because there are Islanders out there?
Because there's so much talent. There were so many teams. I don't know. I think Freddie came out and was talking about numbers declining a little bit. But, like, look, go back to 10 years ago. That was the big thing with Penrith. Like, why aren't they getting the best out of this strong junior system that are winning multiple comps at Harold Matts, SG Ball, under 20s level? Like, they're always really successful, and then it sort of didn't translate into first grade. He's obviously done that now. You look at all the talent, and, even with guys like Liam Martin and Isaiah Yao and all those sorts of players, although they're not born and bred Penrith, they were brought into the system really early and taught, what it means to be a part of that culture, and they're bearing the fruits of it now, Penrith. And then when you look at New Zealand, going to the New Zealand side of it now, like there's so much talent that's from New Zealand that are playing at other clubs. And if he can get the best out of or making sure that he's identifying the best out of that talent and making sure that they're staying at the Warriors, who knows, like 3 or 4 years, the Warriors with still making some good signings in that time is going to be important as well. But
bro, this has fucking just come to my head. So this is back in the day, like clubs used to have an area, and Parramatta had fucking Waikato, and that's how I signed to Parramatta. And your dad was the first guy I had a meeting with. Yeah. Your dad and Rocket Ready come through, like, I would love to sign you to Parramatta, because they had the Waikato area, and that's how, like, me, Dewan and Rory and all those guys rocked up.
I think Wella Haraki and Jack Famasaga before your time as well.
And like that's how it should be. So the NRL should not only have an area that they look after. So each club, say Parramatta, say Waikato, I don't know, you go Melbourne Storm, like they should be able to pick players up from there. Knights used to have Wellington. That's why Ben Mozzolini on that almost ended up there, Marvin.
Yeah, okay.
So that's how it used to work, but then also have that in the islands as well. So there should be clubs aligned with Fiji, clubs aligned with Tonga, you know what I mean? And then just get them all together.
Yeah, but like going back to the point about New Zealand have got to make sure they identify all those best kids before
they can't get them all though. They can't.
But they've got to. That's what Gus will be trying to do.
Just flag them,
making sure that the club's aware of these players before a Sydney Roosters come over and get a Takiaho and all these sorts of players. Like, you know, it's important because that's what he sort of did at Penrith to turn around to make sure that probably Jerome Luai and Nathan. Obviously, Nathan's a lot of people would have noticed Nathan, and he stayed there obviously because of his dad. But some of these players that have come through the grades and Brian To'os and all those sorts of players. Yeah,
it's pretty exciting. So obviously, how long does this take to turn around? He's got a full salary cap. He's got a coach that he's got a great relationship with Trent Barrett. He actually pushes Trent towards these jobs at Manly and Bulldogs. I think that's the type of pull that you were talking about before.
Yep.
How long does it take to turn around? Because he's got a decent team next year.
Yeah, I don't mind the next couple of years for him. It'll be important. You got Matt Duffy's also signed there as well.
He's got points in him.
Yeah, there's some good signs for next year. I talked about it on the blog as well about, you know, some of the signings, and they sort of hammered those key areas, key positions. So I don't think it'll be that far away. Eh?
Do you see them like a 8 to 12 team next year, or
that's where I saw them this year as well? I've sort of jumped the gun a little bit on them. They have got a lot better talent coming in next year. So
Matty Burton's a big one.
That's a realistic goal for him, that 6 to 12 range, considering where they're at now. Like, you obviously can only go up from where they are now, them and the Broncos. So
that sort of rolls nicely into the new signing or rumour new signing. Has this been verified
I think it's been verified now. Yeah, it has. But the false news was him going to Panthers for a little bit.
So that's not real?
Apparently it wasn't. Penrith turned it down, but then now there's news coming out that James Fisher-Harris is going to go back for the birth of his kid.
Yep.
I've seen news come out for that. So if that's the case, then they might reopen talks to get Tavita Pangai Jr. down. But who knows? All that seems to be just like rumour and innuendo at the moment. So
how important is that signing? You look at Tavita Pangai Jr. at raw potential. Obviously, like, he's always been talented, but then off the back of that World Cup where he was playing for Tonga, bro, he was special, man. And he just – a little bit the same mould as Milford, where they've got all the talent in the world, but maybe Broncos just isn't the right spot for them boys right now.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that might have just run its course now. Like you talked about, you know, from the administration point and all that stuff, all that noise and the mess, that's just messy, man. So even for the Broncos, it might be a positive just so they can restart, like, you know, obviously, and with Milf as well. But I talked about a few of the glaring needs that the Bulldogs needed, and for me, one of them, like, it was a position that they needed to identify, was edge back rower
with something about him, mate.
Yeah.
Like either
and he's the perfect player.
Either tackle breaking ability, passing ability, just a playmaker sort of type of vibe, and they didn't really have. They've got very good back rowers, but they're kind of in the same mold, aren't they?
Yeah,
just tackling machines, workhorses.
Yeah, they're workhorses.
So I see him like he's tight with Sonny Bill and all that. You know, Sonny Bill, Quaid, but those boys train all the time. Like, those two boys don't drink. I don't know what TPJ is doing right now, if he's in that sort of mold. But like I said, bro, he just needs a new outlook on football and on life. And you played at two clubs that are always surrounded by drama, Parramatta and Manly, from admin down to player. There's always been a disconnect. How draining is it when you just keep hearing shit about it in the paper and stuff?
Yeah, and especially when results obviously aren't going your way. When it's a little bit different. Winning solves everything as well. Like that noise winds it up, but that's not going to happen at the Broncos for a while. And he's been dissatisfied. It looks there for a while, because you can see the difference. Like when it looks like some news might be going his way, or he looked like he was moving on, or was playing for contract. You can see what he's got, like the potential that he's got, but on the reverse effect, like, you know, when it looks like he's fucking sulking a little bit and a bit over it, you can see it in his performances, but. He could easily be the buy of the season next year, easily.
So speaking of winning and losing, Tom Gilbert and crying in the sheds. This is a topic you sort of brought up. What's your thoughts on it? Should this be shown?
Yeah. I
reckon it should.
Yeah, I actually liked it for the reason. I don't think Fox League had this in mind when they were showing it. I think it was more of a clickbait thing. But I like showing the raw emotion. You know, sometimes. Fans come out and they see players smiling and laughing after games, and they rip into them. Some, you know, when you go into the sheds, you might be having a laugh with a guy that you know, but then you go into the sheds and then that's when you have a proper think to yourself. You get sprayed by the coach, and then it all sort of just sinks in. And you know, we're in an age now where showing a bit of vulnerability and showing like, for mental health and all that, this is what we go through or have been through as players, and this is what the players going through now, and it means a lot to them. So I was, in a way, I was happy to see it from Tom Gilbert. It shows me a lot about his character and
shows you actually cares.
Yeah, shows you he cares and who he is as a person for me.
And also saying that you don't have to cry to show that you care. Like you sort of talked about there, like a lot of the times players get called out for losing, shaking their hands, smiling, and like, oh, he actually doesn't care. But like you said, losing that next 48 hours is a long 48 hours.
It's draining, man.
But you don't really fall asleep. You got video coming. Your name's probably going to be up on there. That's the worst part.
Yeah.
Getting
seeing the initials.
IJ, missed tackle. Fuck.
When I was at Parramatta with Hainesy, and because we're both JH, so I used to go, beauty, hopefully it's Hainesy. No, it's me.
But yeah, that's the ultimate accountability, man. Like, you're gonna get paid out from fans no matter what. But then when you go into like, I talked about this one time before, like, when you miss a tackle and you let in a try, and then you got to go back to that little huddle behind the thing, and you're looking at the boys in the eyes, trying to like, fuck, sorry boys, and then you got to do that in video as well, and everyone's looking at the video going like, Ice, what were you doing here?
Yeah,
and then you have to explain it in front of the boys, man. That type of accountability, like, man, it's good. It's good for you, like, as you start to grow older, because when you make mistakes, you put your hand up and you can kind of move on with it. But people wouldn't realise that, just watching from a fan perspective.
Yeah, and also if the fans that were hammering Fox League on it, we're talking about, like, just give them their space. They're in the sheds now. But like I said, just the vulnerability of men these days too, to show that, like, you're a fucker, you're allowed to cry. And that Tom Gilbert, he wouldn't be, if you're looking at a teammate, there's no way that, in this day and age that you look at him going like, fuck, he's soft for crying or whatever like that.
No way in the world.
It shows the positive side of
where we're trending.
Yeah, where we're trending.
As men.
I feel like we're trending in the right way with these sorts of videos.
Yeah, it's great point there, Scope. Sort of rolling into this week now, Mitchy Moses, the broken back of doom.
Spinal. I broke my back.
Yeah, so obviously, like, a bit of a quick apology. We weren't hammering him, but we were sort of just highlighting how great Nathan Cleary is, and it was never meant to be a knock onto him. But yeah, playing Origin for broken back is pretty crazy.
Mate, if you give props to Nathan Cleary for doing what he did, you got to give props to Mitchell Moses for doing what he did.
Yeah.
Played with, apparently it happened 10 minutes into the game. He played on.
How do you do that? Like, how do you...
Fuck yeah, I don't know, man. Broken back.
Yeah.
So,
that's a little bit scary. Like, you hear about ankles and knees, you're like, ooh, but like, you start hearing about back, bro, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, but it even talks about, like, I talked about how far he'd come defensively in his game over the last couple of years and how much he improved in that. And then this just shows another area of his toughness that, for me, a couple of years ago, you probably, I don't know if Mitchy lasts a full game at club level, let alone Origin level, but he's fully matured into his game now.
Yeah, he looks very comfortable in his own skin now, and that comes with time, doesn't it?
Yeah, and he's very confident in where he's at his footy, and just like, that's big props, man. Like, sort of joking off the top of it, but that's an unreal effort from him.
How many games you played for broken back will be first call in the pub every time, eh? That's what I'll be saying. What played for broken? Have you heard that cork story about Sowie? No. So the boys are playing out in Bathurst, and Peter Wallace done his ACL, bro. And then he went off, got it checked, and it tore his ACL, but he could still kind of run of it. You can kind of run straight lines. And then Sowie done his cork, and he said, whoa, fuck, I might be going off. I've done a cork. He goes, bro, I've done my ACL. Keep going. And then Sowie goes, yeah, all right. But Parramatta Premiership hopes, I watched them on the weekend. They still look pretty good. Obviously not as good as Mitchell Moses, but the thing I like about it, the King, Tracker, King Guffer at the back. He gets more touches, and I don't know, bro. He's so silky to watch. I love watching him play.
Bro, whenever Dill Brown's out for or Mitch Moses, the other one ends up stepping up, and Gutho definitely plays his best footy. Like, King Gutho's always around the ball a little bit more. He's a little bit more energetic. He's always energetic, but like, those don't always revert to touches.
Yeah.
For him, but when the other guy's out, you got a guy like Jacob Arthur that comes in, steps in, who's just going to more direct the team around, give some early ball, or Will Smith.
I heard a commentator say this as well. They said, like, when Luke Brooks and Mitch Moses playing together, they always played better without the other one. And then Mitch Moses is there with. They always play better without the other one as well.
Yeah, okay.
That's pretty interesting, is it?
Yeah, Dill Brown had a really good game on the weekend as well.
Haircut of doom too.
Yeah, great. He showed some love for my haircut as well, which means a lot coming from a guy with that sort of chop. So, grateful for Dill Bags.
But yeah, Parramatta, obviously we don't know how long he's out for, Mitch Moses. It's quite a broad, broke his back, you know what I mean? There's so many variations off the back of that can happen. So I don't see Parramatta going too far, but it definitely hurts him.
Yeah, I have Parramatta and
major semi?
Parramatta and South in that 4th spot. We've talked about it a lot. Melbourne and Penrith are the teams to beat. If anyone's going to give them a bit of drama, I think Manly will be the team that can cause them some wezzers at full strength, and then there's next Para and Rabbitohs, and this makes it a little bit harder. This probably pushes Rabbitohs up for me.
100%. Pappy back from Melbourne, pretty scary. Nelson Asafa-Solomona comes back as well. How does this play out? Obviously, you got Nicho Hynes, probably the informed player of one of the informed players of the comp right now, behind Tommy Turbo and those guys. But how do you see it going?
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Munster's out.
Yeah,
rested.
It'll be interesting to see if Nicho Hynes, if they play as if they're lined up at the moment. Cooper John's at 6, Nicho Hynes at fullback. I think Nicho Hynes might play 6 and Pappy goes to fullback, but who knows? But if Nicho Hynes keeps playing this way, does Pappy stay on the bench for an extended period of time until waiting for an opportunity? I know Craig Bellamy's sort of like that sort of – he'd remind me of that sort of coach that would – if the team's going well, why change it? They're flowing. But it'll be interesting to see how the next couple of weeks, because we've got a really big period coming up. This should beat the Cowboys on the weekend, and then like we've talked about before, Penrith and Manly coming up in the coming weeks.
So obviously I follow your opinion here. I think Nicho Hynes moves into where Munster would play. How do you think he transitions into 5'8"? You look at someone like Kalen Ponga, who started at fullback, wanted to play 5'8", didn't quite I don't think it's not as easy of a transition as people think it is, going from fullback to 5'8".
Yeah, but we talked about it on our shape. All those players are interchangeable. Like Jerome Hughes, if he plays 5'8", halfback, fullback, he's going to do a job. Nico's going to do the same.
You add on 20 tackles into your workload, though. That's a little bit different.
But it's ingrained in a man.
Yeah.
This is the Melbourne Storm system. This is what makes them so great. They don't skip a beat.
You're bagging Newcastle, are you?
But even Pappy, if Pappy has to come on and play lock
he's done it before,
hooker for a certain, he'll come on and do a job at that. That's just who they are. That's their club. So I've got no dramas at all. Whether Nicho stays at fullback or goes into 6, he's going to play well.
Pick your poison. When obviously this game's going to happen, you're probably going to win. You roll 4 or 5 weeks from now, everyone's healthy. Do you have Grant and Cheese at the 14 or Pappy or Nicho? Pappy or Nicho? I reckon Pappenhausen gets back to fullback. And then you got that 14 jersey. Do you bring Nicho on, or do you have Harry Grant or Cheese? So Cheese will be one of those boys are going to be there.
Yeah, so they'll just do what they did last year. Remember how they had Cam Smith and they had Nicho Hynes and Cheese on the bench,
and so Cheese can cover the middle as well.
Yeah. So,
but then you get a little bit smaller. But then you've got Nelson and
I still reckon they'll reward Cheese for his form this year. He'll
Grant
stay
will come
at 9.
off the bench.
Harry will play 14. If Nicho or Pappy, they will go to the bench because you can move Cheese into lock or front row. You know what I mean? So you get rid of that third middle or forward on the bench, and then that way they've got the complement of they're covered across because Cheese is the key. Cheese's versatility to be able to play hooker, front row at a high level. He played stud for him in the front row last year.
But he was 5 kickers over. He's shredded now, the kid.
Yeah, the mozzarella cheese. But he's the key for the whole rotation, mate. He makes them so versatile, and then obviously they'll carry that. Or if you're worried about one of them missing out, I don't think any of them miss out on their best 17. Nicho Hynes, Pappy will be fullback. If they're not, then they'll be on the bench. They'll be number 17.
Worst case scenario, Nicho Hynes goes to 18 and you get into a GF and Munster get knocked out. You just roll straight on and
they're set.
You win a comp anyway.
Yeah, they're set.
Gun to your head, do Melbourne need to drop a game before they roll into the finals?
Nah, not at all. I think it was important that they lost
early
start of the year. If they were on that sort of Penrith Panthers streak, if they hadn't lost, because they could have won both those games, man, Parramatta and Penrith, but both those teams are top 4 teams. So, and one of them's obviously their biggest threat. So, it doesn't matter. Going if they go perfect all the way through, that won't bother them at all.
Fuck, they're a good club, Melbourne. So the Manly boys starting to get, man, they're plodding along nicely, aren't they? Your little boys from across to the beaches.
Yeah, this looks like their best 17 too that I've seen in a minute. Everyone, they've had the full complement of sort of this team, but now with the way and the form that Dylan Walker brings off the bench for him in that 14 role, with some games under his belt, it's like from top to bottom, this looks like they're fully
nice,
strength. Fully strength. I think they've, who is it? Curtis Sirenen is probably the only one that would have been part of their best 17. That's not a part of it at the moment.
But those boys have gone past them
Yeah.
now, I reckon.
Yeah.
Olakau'atu and Schuster.
Yeah, we're about to do a potty. Shout out to those boys as well. We're going to do a potty on Friday with those two boys. Did a blog at the start of the year, the Bird Gang back rowers.
What's Olakau'atu giving you reckon?
Yeah, he seems pretty keen. He seems pretty keen. So I'll send them through a few of the questions so they can prepare a little bit, the boys, and just, talk up their just talk about their progression throughout the year, which has been, I said in the blog, for me, that they're probably the informed back row. When they're both playing together, they're probably the informed back rowers of the comp at the moment.
First ever hot take. Do you want to hear it?
Go on.
Penrith don't make the grand final.
Ooh.
I don't normally do that. I think I'm hanging around Jackson like a little bit too much. And roll with me here. Who's the best player in the comp right now? Tommy Turbo? 2009, who was the best player?
Jared Hayne.
2012, who was the best player?
Ben Barber.
Who'd they both play in the final?
Melbourne Storm.
Who won?
Melbourne Storm.
I think I love a little storyline. I think when I look at Penrith, they're starting to get like a little bit of niggling injuries. Got To'u. When I lined up the Manly forward pack against the Penrith forward pack, some of them might not be as good. So you got Marty, Paseka, Schuster, Olakau'atu, and Jakey against the Penrith. If they're not like William and Kikau's ceiling's probably a little bit higher than most of the boys, but form kind of levels them out. Man, I think they match up pretty nicely. And they don't have a Tommy Turbo. They got Nathan Cleary. Ches can balance him out. Fozzie's going to do his thing against Jerome Luai.
Yep.
Like, they've been those young guys that have come through as well. But then, obviously, Tommy Turbo trumps everyone.
You don't have to convince me, baby. Hey, and I've got some jam for your point. We haven't spoken about this too. So everyone knows I do my best work with futures, right?
Yeah. And you're loaded up on it?
And I've been looking around. I've been looking for value. I'm always looking for value. Always going through the odds. Manly are currently $13 to win the comp, which is a nice bet. 13s is about right for me. Like they need to be fully fit for me to contend against Penrith and Melbourne. Like this 17, if they go against Penrith and Melbourne come finals time, I like them. But if you dig a little bit deeper, and you go have a look at the Clive Churchill odds, you can currently get Turbo for $23.
Oh, wow.
$23. That gives you an extra $10.
Bro, he can get it on the losing side too. He's that good.
If Manly are going to win the comp, respects to our good mates, Daly Cherry Evans, Kieran Foran, all the boys, Turbo is going to be the reason they win. So if you're going to have a play at them at 13s, geez, you're going to have a little bit on fucking Tommy Turbo right now at 23s.
Let's roll back to 2009. What did Melbourne do to Jared Hayne?
Yeah. But like this is what we've talked about before, bro. How do you stop Turbo?
I don't know. They would have said the same question in 2009 with and 2012 with Barber and Hainsey. Like, how the fuck do you stop Hainsey? They find a way.
But the difference between them two...
Ballyache's doing video right now on Tommy Turbo for the GF.
Oh, like, I'm not doubting... Like, I'm just asking it from me not being the GOAT coach of all time because I'm trying to, But the difference between Hainsey and Benny Barber is they generally did their best work in, like, good ball, they'd pop up at crucial parts of, plays. Turbo takes hit-ups. Once he sees,
Hainsey could have.
But he wasn't fit enough. He's not on Turbo's fitness level.
Agree.
So Turbo's popping up all out. Turbo will take a carry out of yardage, 10 off their line, and skittle 2 or 3 people, get them on the front foot, and still be at the end of the shape when it comes into good ball. That's the difference between Turbo compared to Benny, and that's why I said for me, Turbo surpassed Hainsey probably a couple of weeks ago when I was watching him play. He's at a different level than anyone I've ever seen before.
And respectfully to the halves that played in 09 and 12, I think Ches and Foz are probably that little notch above.
Across the board, mate. Across the board, with the working class centres, the pool cleaner Morgan Harper and Caltech's Brad Parker,
Man, bang for buck.
Yeah.
They're good. Yeah. And we've always said this, Scope, whenever you win a comp, you want your guys that are paid a little bit less paying at it above rate. So Schuster, I don't know what he's on, but he's probably worth a little bit more than he's getting paid. Yep. Olakau'atu, prime example.
I think he just got an upgrade.
What's the goal of Manasi Fainu? Imagine if he's in there, bro. They're
I understand he's back before the end of the year. He's
expecting
to play this year.
We're on.
I can't confirm when, but yeah, he's playing this year.
Yeah, Bird Gang.
All right, make sure we don't release this I've got to go put some funds into the fucking account and make sure I'm loading on. Just give me a couple of hours, please, Jacko.
Yeah, I might even follow you. Hey, get on it. I don't like features, though. It takes too long. All right, so that's a wrap on the show. Anything else you got?
No.
All right, good. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe.